Hello, everyone, and how are all of you doing? We are back. We're definitely back for another episode of Rob's Real and Ridiculous Podcast, episode number 46. Number 46, Man Cave Studios, Valley of the Sun. I hope you are all doing well. I hope you're all enjoying the holiday season. I hope you're all having a good week and enjoying some time off, hopefully. But we're going to get right into it today because she awaits us in the green room, the Zoom room, green room, as I like to say. Aggie Dent comes from us as a senior. She's a senior right now at NYU. She's a young woman working in the sports industry right now, and she covers pro basketball, soccer, and cricket, and is majoring in sports management. So among quite a few other things, a lot of really good other things that she's going to share with us today. Aggie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you wanted to join, and I know we've been going back and forth a little bit on email over the last few weeks, and so I'm glad you are here and joining us today on this. We're right in the middle of holiday season, aren't we?
Yes, yes. I'm so excited for Christmas. I feel like I've been waiting all of 2020 for Christmas.
Yeah, isn't this the hopefully the most normal time of 2020 potentially?
Yes, I hope so.
We went to a couple weeks ago, one of the malls here, and it just seemed good to see things decorated and people out, although people are wearing masks and everything out. I'm out here in Arizona, so I'm originally from Boston, just so you know, so I've been out here since the early 80s, but I know right now you reside in New York, correct?
Yes, I live in New York. I'm currently in Birmingham, Alabama with
You
my
are?
family,
Okay.
but yeah, New York and Alabama part-time, I guess.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good mix. So let's start with that a little bit because you were born and raised, right, in Birmingham?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's
Take
correct.
me on that journey and what got you and the family out to New York. A little bit about your, because it's all about your sports background and how you got excited to get involved with sports.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. When I guess towards the end of my high school career, I knew I wanted to go relatively far away. I applied to all different kinds of schools across the US, a bunch in California, but I was leaning towards the Northeast.
Yep.
So I ended up at NYU, and I love sports. So New York kind of made sense. They have quite a
Absolutely.
few teams there. Yeah, so I moved to New York City from Alabama. It was kind of crazy. Lots of people here thought I was crazy leaving
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, going to New York. But yeah, now I'm studying sports and working for a couple different teams in New York City, and it's been amazing so far. I've been there for 4 years, and I'll be there for at least one more after I graduate. Yeah, so I love New York now. It's been a really incredible experience.
Do you have plans on where you might want to go, or is it all pertaining on where your career takes you after you're out of school?
Yeah, so I graduate from NYU in May 2021, and then I'm going to Columbia University to do a master's degree for the next year. So I'll be around at least
Awesome.
until 2022.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so tell me about that just a little bit. So I went from Boston to Arizona, and that was a huge culture shock. So I went from the
Yes.
city to, I guess you could say, I always joke and say the wild, wild west, especially it seemed that way when I first moved out here. Now it's a little bit more metropolitan, a little bit more built up, excuse me. But what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think the most exciting part was how everybody in New York is from somewhere else.
Yep,
Every now and then you'll find a
true.
native New Yorker, but I thought it was amazing because growing up in Alabama, that's not really the case. Right when I moved to New York, my roommate my freshman year was from Turkey, so that was crazy exciting. I learned all about her culture and stuff. And then just as I went on, I found myself working in international sport, and I hadn't really had that here.
Yeah,
I grew up with Alabama football, and that's about it. Maybe some
yeah,
baseball thrown in there. But yeah, I was really opened up to international friends and international people, which led to international sport,
yeah,
which was really cool. So I just kind of jumped in, and I know like they always say New York is the melting pot of
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
um, yeah.
It's funny you say that because you just took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say melting pot. Sometimes I don't, being a Northeaster myself, it's a
Hmm.
lot more of the same people. I've still got friends still living in the same city and everything else, but New York is a melting pot. They go there, it's the Mecca, right? You go there
Yeah.
for sports, entertainment, modeling, acting, everything. So sometimes I don't think about how you do have a diverse group of people coming from other parts of the world and of the US going over there.
Yeah, definitely. You could see it in everything, like in the people, in the food, in
Yeah.
the city itself, like the neighborhood. Like NYU is in Greenwich Village, but I live right next to, like, they call it Little Ukraine. Like there's a lot of Ukrainian restaurants right down the street from NYU, and I
Yeah.
definitely not had that experience living in Alabama. But yeah, the culture there is amazing. I love it. I think another hard part was just going from like the relaxed feel of Alabama to the hustle and bustle of the city. I love that. Like I wanted the pace. I like the go, go, go feel, but that was hard to get adjusted to at first.
That's so true. It's so true. So my other job, my day job, I work for American Express. So I'll frequent
Mhm.
down in New York, down at the tower for Amex, and I kind of like getting that feel back when I'm there because it's everybody's dressed up, it's everybody's business like, but it's all go right. It's all hustle.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I love it though. Like I
Yeah.
need the pace. I like walking around, walking 20 blocks where I have to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
My younger cousin, she still lives there right now. She was working. I'm not sure where she's at now. She was working for Rachel Ray for a little bit. She loves New York.
Oh,
And then my other younger cousin, Gabriel, and I think he's back in San Francisco. My wife just filled me in the other day. I wasn't sure if he left. Gabriel Giacopo, he was attending NYU, as a matter of
oh,
fact.
cool.
Yeah, he was on the swim team and getting involved with singing and everything else like that in the arts industry too. So good
Yeah.
stuff. How about the snow?
I was
You
just
okay
telling
with it?
somebody,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just talking about this the other day
Yeah.
because there's a huge snowstorm
Yeah.
that happened, I guess, just a few days ago in New York. The first snow in New York, my freshman year, 4 years ago, I just assumed that classes would be canceled because it's snowing. In Alabama, there's a 20% chance of a half an inch of snow, and we cancel school. So
Right.
I just assumed that we would be out for the day. I didn't want to go to class that day. I put on my coat. I know I was slipping all over the ice. I was so scared, went back home, stayed in bed. um, Not my favorite thing. I like it now, and I do look forward to like New York Christmas and stuff like that. But the first snow of my first year there was traumatizing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. This time of year, I wish we had it.
Yeah.
Right around the holiday season. Give me 2 weeks of it, and I'd be completely happy with it. But it's the other time of the year, and from what I remember, them saying just a couple of days ago too, this is kind of early for a big snowstorm to come this early in December. Usually, you're getting like a couple of inches versus 8 to 10. I know
Right.
they got up in Massachusetts. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know I think my second year in New York, there was a huge snowstorm, but it was in January, so it felt a little bit later.
yep,
But yeah, that was tough too. I had so many layers. I know NYU is around Washington Square Park, and the whole park was covered, snowball fights everywhere. It
yeah,
was You accidentally run into a snowball fight, and you have to
yeah.
participate. There's no choice.
Oh yeah, no way
But
you can pass on that. Yeah, that takes me back. Those are good times. Good times.
yes.
All right, so just swinging in because I did listen to a few of your clips. I shouldn't say good clips. You get a lot of good stuff out there because you seem like you got a nice guest list. You've been doing your podcast since what, last April?
Yes.
Okay,
April.
yeah. So what got you started? What triggered? I want to start a podcast, and it's
Yeah.
Adventures with Aggie, right?
Yes. Yeah. So Adventures with Aggie started in April. I was doing a lot of really cool virtual programming with NYU. And after the school year ended, I was like, I don't really want to stop yet. I know everybody had a lot of extra time on their hands, just as far as people working in the sports industry. They definitely had like an extra 30 minutes or so to speak on a
Right.
podcast.
So true.
Yeah. So I just started reaching out to my friends. The podcast kind of started as like more business oriented, trying to give advice to students like me. I started the podcast to give myself advice essentially.
Yeah.
But I was speaking with executives in the sports industry and just talking about their path, how they got into the sports industry, whether they started in the sports industry, which is always really interesting to see if they transitioned in later or not.
Yeah.
Um, and then it kind of recently has turned into more athletes talking about their off-court or off-field initiatives.
Yep.
Yeah, the guests have been incredible, and I've been shocked at the growth recently. I know lots of people are starting podcasts during this pandemic we're living
Yeah.
in. So, yeah, I know I'm not the only one, but mine's been super fun so far.
Yeah, same here. I'm enjoying it. It's crazy. So I thought about it for, I don't know, you get those thoughts in your head for a couple of years. And then finally, this past February, I decided to do it. And as we all know, or didn't know, there was going to be a pandemic and the sports world shut down. So
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of solo shows, just kind of doing a round table as I do when I don't have guests, covering football and UFC and basketball, etc., everything. And there's still content out there though. Even when the teams
Yeah.
weren't playing, the NBA is a reality show in itself, and I love the NBA.
Hmm.
But it
Yeah.
has its own off-season drama, doesn't it?
Yes.
It really does. So,
Definitely.
so I said, how did you manage to keep this going? And it was just kind of good to hear people just, they want to hear a voice. We're all kind of, I'm sure you've been knowing what's going on in New York, quarantined and isolated, and a lot of us are all working from home. So you don't have that face-to-face interaction. So for some people, it's kind of like it's good to hear a voice that I'm familiar with too. So kind of kept
Yeah,
people going through all of it.
definitely. Yeah, it's been a great way to stay connected with people, all kinds of people that I
Yeah,
know, people that I've met because of the podcast. Yeah, it's been an interesting, I guess, community around my
yeah,
podcast and
yeah.
meeting other podcasters too.
It's great, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
enjoyable.
I love it.
I totally agree. So I know recently you had on two podcast shows ago Derek Anderson from the NBA.
Yes,
Really good interview there.
Derek
Really
is
good. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's incredible. He's really, really good at life lessons and life advice.
Yeah.
I met him through an internship that I had this past semester, and I heard him speak at an event, and I was like, "Hey, I need you on the podcast."
Yeah.
So he came and spoke, and I knew that he had a really great story off the court, just from hearing him speak and learning about his books and stuff that he had written. And he's very much a philanthropist,
Yeah.
not just an awesome basketball player, although we
Yeah.
love that part of him too. Yeah, so I talked about a lot of the philanthropic things that he's doing,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. I loved talking to him. He was one of my favorite episodes, I think.
Yeah. Great job there. And then Len Elmore. So I listened to some of that podcast as well with Len Elmore, and obviously former NBA player. I had no idea that he's now a professor at Columbia. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Len has done just about everything you could do.
Yeah.
Um, his Wikipedia page does not do justice in all of the things that he's done in his life. Yeah, so I brought him on because obviously we know him from his NBA days. He went to law school, and he was a practicing lawyer for a few years, and then he was an agent, and he was on ESPN,
He
CBS
was.
Sports, um, so much. But yes, now he's a professor at Columbia. I met him through NYU, and he's teaching about athlete activism, and he has a couple courses in the sports management master's program. So
Nice.
I'm excited. Maybe I'll
Th-
take his class next year. I don't know,
That's
but we'll see.
hey, and that's great stuff, especially in the world that we live in today, right? That's great to
Definitely,
hear. That's great to hear.
for
Um,
sure.
you also work as director of research, right, and engagement for the Flint United Basketball Club. Are you still doing that?
Yes. Yes, I'm still
Yeah.
doing that. Um, yeah, Flint United's awesome. The team itself was announced about 4 months ago now, and I
Yep.
was brought onto the team about 3 months ago. So it's all very new, which is really exciting. So really getting to build the team from the ground up has been an awesome experience. Yeah, so they compete in the basketball league.
Yep.
I believe they've onboarded 18, 19 teams during COVID-19. So that's
Really?
crazy. The league is growing a lot. And Flint United is one of those teams. Um, I was shocked that Flint, Michigan didn't have a professional basketball team yet because of the basketball culture and history that the city holds.
Yep.
Just people like Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee. We know all these big names come from Flint. Yeah, so I was shocked that there wasn't a team there, but we're growing. It's super exciting. We have our training camp in 2 weeks, I
I was
think.
just about to ask
Um,
you that when that season kicks off.
yeah, the training camp starts, I think it's January 7th that week. And
Okay.
then our first game is March 2021.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. So is that comparable to like the NBA D League?
Yes. Yeah, it's the same level of
Same
basketball.
level? Yeah.
Yeah, some of our guys, some of our TBL players, they will go through the draft and they'll be in NBA one day. Yeah, the league is just a lot younger. So
So
that's
good
pretty good.
opportunity. It's another good opportunity for guys coming out of college, right? To get involved
Yes,
in a pro league, get recognized, and hopefully get back up into the NBA. I like that.
definitely.
I like that. Um, the other thing you cover a number of things: soccer, football, some swimming, cricket, wheelchair rugby.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is kind of a new development, I think, within Adventures with Aggie. On the podcast, I'm in, I think it's going to be the last week of January, maybe first week of February. I'm doing an Adventures with Aggie Road to Tokyo series. So I'm having all of these different Olympians and Paralympians come and speak about kind of like what they've been doing in the last year now that they have another year to wait until the Tokyo Olympics. So yeah, one of my most recent episodes that I recorded, I haven't released it yet. I'll release it during that week, was with Chuck Aoki. He's a wheelchair rugby player. He played wheelchair basketball for, I think, 11 or 12 years before he transitioned to wheelchair rugby. But hearing his story was super exciting. And he'll definitely, I think he'll be the first episode of the Adventures with Aggie Road to Tokyo. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, I can't wait for that part of the podcast to come out.
No, that's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, so they're I was watching. I don't know if you follow Brian Gumble at all a little bit. He has a great show on HBO, and he had a bunch of
Mhm.
guests. They were talking about the Tokyo Olympics coming up, and just what do you think that coverage might look like, right? Come summertime,
Yeah.
because a lot of us, including us, that and you cover sports. What does that landscape look like? Because as you know, they're covering the NBA or have covered the NBA from afar, right?
Right.
The studios are at home. So they were having a conversation, Andrea Kramer and a bunch of other guests, weekly guests that he has on the show, to say, will they allow the same number of media people to attend and
Right.
cover the games versus knowing? Plus, it's probably a money saver too, right? For companies not to fly as many people
Yeah.
out, which is kind of sad. You have any
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I was talking about this with Chuck and a few of the other Olympians that I was interviewing for the series, and I think the one of the biggest difference that the athletes are going to see is obviously the lack of fans. Probably
Right.
not going to let fans travel into Tokyo
I
from all
know.
over the world to watch, regardless of how far away the Olympics are happening. And then also, they, I don't remember which one now, but it was in one of the episodes that I was recording. They said that it's going to be very quick, like fly in, compete, and then fly out. Like they don't want the athletes just sitting there
Staying
hanging
there
out for weeks.
for 2 weeks.
Right. So I think that it'll be different from the athlete perspective, and then as well as the media. I doubt that weird like random reporters will get in,
Right.
just by like purchasing a pass. I think it'll be necessary media rather than like the freelance reporters or freelance journalists and things like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be hard on the athletes, but I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to it. I love watching it regardless of if there are
I do
fans there or
too.
anything.
I do
But
too. We need to
yeah,
get back to some real stuff again,
yeah,
things that make us feel good. And that would be something to look forward to. And
yes,
and you talking to athletes and some ex-athletes, one of the things that I hear constantly, whether it's the NFL, UFC, boxing, is I know you're on there you're out there, you're fighting and you're playing football and you're doing your thing, but you do feed off the adrenaline of the fans. So to
Right.
just have that dead air going on a regular basis, it's got to be tough to kind of get yourself up, even in a close game or close boxing match or whatever it is.
Definitely. Yeah, I had one really funny interview. This was before Adventures with Aggie was a podcast. It was a live interview series.
Yeah.
But Dylan Mabin, he played college football at Fordham University, I think,
Okay.
in New York, and now he's played at a couple different teams. But he was one of the first live interviews that I did, and I was like, "How do you feel about there not being fans at the NFL games?" He's like, "I played football at Fordham. We didn't have very many fans anyway. It's not that
Yeah.
big a deal."
Yeah.
But I think to some of the athletes, like maybe Alabama football players or Auburn football players, Clemson, like they're so used to having like 100,000 fans in the stadium that it's
Yep.
got to be different.
Es-
Um,
Especially in college. It's funny because I have heard those jokes thrown around. In other words, like, the Yankees or the Red Sox stadiums are full, and the Tampa Bay Rays, it doesn't matter. They don't have
right?
fans anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings me to something too that was on my mind that I heard earlier in the week, and there's an argument being made, especially for not just the bowl games that are going on now, right? But the big one, right? The big Final Four. You got what? Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. A
Right.
lot of controversy around Ohio State getting in with 6 wins.
Yeah.
You haven't, and then also the second thing is really just a two-part thing I'd like to talk to you about is them getting in with six. And I know it's all about the eye test, right? In terms of, well, I don't need a body of work of say 8, 9, 10 games to know Ohio State belongs in that top four. And we all know they're a draw for TV too. The
Right.
Ohio States and forget about Alabama. By the way, are you an Alabama fan?
Yes.
You have
Yes.
to be. Yeah, so where I growing up in the Northeast, it's more hockey than anything. And you
Okay.
probably see that in New York too, right? There's not
Right.
any big college football teams there. Way back when Boston College was a good team when they had Doug Flutie, but that was about it. But so my go-to team, I like Ohio State, I like Notre Dame, but my favorite team's Alabama, believe it or not. I'm a big Nick Saban fan,
Okay.
and he's got ties to the Patriots. He worked under Bill Belichick for
Yeah.
years with Cleveland and a few other teams. So Alabama is one of them for me. But what they also talked about is, can you at least get family into these bowl games?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I feel like maybe. I'm
Right?
not sure, but I think that it could happen if they're tested or if there's like protocols being
Right.
taken within the stadium. Um, yeah, I mean, I know like Alabama, Ole Miss, a couple of the teams down here, they are allowing fans in the stadiums, like limited amount
Yep.
of students and limited amount of like season ticket holders and things. So I don't know, you would think that it would be possible to let a very small number of family members come in because odds are they've been seeing the family members anyway. So
Yeah.
they've all been around each other. But I mean, I think that would be great to let
That's how I
somebody.
feel, right? And
Yeah,
it's for a lot of these players, as you know, you're a senior, and I know you're going on to Columbia for another year. But this is maybe some players, male or female, aren't going pro, right?
right.
And this is it. This is their swan song. This is their last year as a senior. So you kind of want to go out with a nice, a good feeling about it. And without having fans, at least having family there, I think would be something that they need to really look into.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
Especially like considering the last year that happened. Like I was talking to the NYU basketball team, NYU baseball team, and things. And like when their season was cut in March, like they didn't know that was coming. But now
right.
we know it's coming. Like we know the season's ending, and the seniors are going to be upset. So why not try to make it a little better with
That
inviting their mom? You know?
that's
Um,
true. That's
yeah, we'll
true.
see.
I totally agree. All right, so we're gonna get into some of your sports, your teams, and your hobbies. So you're a big Yankees fan, and you can see over my shoulder, I'm a Boston Red Sox fan, Boston fan. So how long? So how long you been following the Yankees? Since you've been there for the last 4 years, I'm gonna just guess.
Um, yeah, actually, my dad has been a Yankees fan his whole life. So I picked up the Yankees pretty at a pretty young age. It was kind of random, I guess, for
with
a
well, with no
young girl.
baseball in Alabama either,
Yeah,
right? No professional
right.
teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that are Braves fans just because of the convenience of being able to go to those games.
yep.
I think actually I was talking about this yesterday too with the NYU baseball team. I think my first MLB game was a White Sox game. Kind of random, but I I don't know why I didn't pick them up. Like I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, they were my first game, so they're my team now. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I picked up the Yankees when I was really young, and I love the history. Like just, I feel like
Yes.
there's always something to uncover with Yankees baseball history, which I love. But yeah, Yankees, Yankees
Yeah,
forever.
you got a good 1-2 combination there with Judge and Stanton, and
Yeah,
they've come up a little. I thought it was gonna be Yankees Dodgers. I don't know about you in a World
yeah,
Series. So,
yeah.
um,
I thought so,
yeah,
but I'm glad that Stanton's back too. I know he's been kind of off and on with his injuries and
off
stuff.
and
So
on
I think,
fighting injuries, right? And
yeah,
hopefully, they still haven't figured this thing out yet, have they, for this upcoming season?
yeah, no, not really.
The
Yeah,
owners are going back and forth, I guess, with the
hmm
CBA. That's the last thing I saw. Now they're saying, do we
right.
want to play 140? Is it 80? And then I just heard this morning that, and I don't know who proposed this, if it was the owner or the league, that they are thinking about having all players vaccinated before they start the league up again.
Yeah, I think that caused some controversy within the news. Um,
Right.
I've actually been talking about this in my classes quite a bit, just with all the sports management classes I take, and like whether or not athletes should be prioritized over other groups, maybe like people battling COVID in the hospitals and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think it would be kind of shocking if that does get approved for MLB to be vaccinated rather than any
Yeah.
other league in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, or people that are really in need, to your point, right?
Right,
I think the timing is not right for that right now.
right.
And I think bringing sports back as they did. Do you follow UFC at all?
Not much. Every now and then,
Every
but
now
not
and
much.
then, I know you follow boxing, and we'll get into that, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. But and the reason why I bring it up, I'm a big UFC guy, big Dana White guy who runs the league. The one thing
Yeah.
he managed to do, I always find this with successful people, and you've interviewed quite a few successful people. They just have this inner energy, drive, and desire to push through things, right? Not
Right.
just go through them without making sure you have everything, all the checks and balances in place. He's the one guy that has managed to push through this week after week after week without delaying. And, some people have thrown darts saying, well, because you're a money grab. Well, no, he's looking out for his employees. A lot of
Right.
these fighters don't, unless you're at the top of the food chain, they're not making a ton of money either to survive day to day.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's
We'll
tough.
see.
It's tough. We'll see what happens there. And you're a Knicks fan, unfortunately, right?
Yes. um, yes, that's another thing.
Sorry to say that, but
Yeah, no,
I would
it,
love to
it
see that
happens.
franchise turn around because there's just too
Yes.
much history there.
Yeah. I've had my Knicks stuff on all day, put on my jersey tonight, but
Yep.
I've gotten quite a few of sad Instagram DMs today from posting about how excited I am about the game tonight. But yeah, I don't know. I hope they can turn around. I feel like there's a lot of work to be done,
Yep.
not just on the court or not just within the team, but within management and just some of their practices and stuff that I think need to be a little bit, I guess, revamped.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of work to do.
Too
Still
much
love them.
turnover there. Of course,
Yeah,
through thick and thin, we got to stick through our teams, right? You just can't
right.
jump ship like some people do. But I'd like to see that franchise turn around. And
Yeah.
I think there's 13 games tonight, opening night, which is
Yes.
exciting, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. Last night, you had Golden State got walloped. I don't know if you saw any of that
Yeah.
by
I saw a little
Jersey.
bit.
Jersey looks good.
hmm
Now with
Yeah.
Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving together, let's see if any drama stirs up there. But
Yeah.
that's I'll tell you what, if there isn't, and I'm a big Steve Nash guy, and I'm going to pull for him
hmm
as a coach. I feel like the point guard in basketball and the catcher in baseball have great vision to the floor game, to the baseball, right, the fields,
Right.
and I think they become great coaches.
Yeah,
And so
definitely. I'm excited
yeah,
about Steve Nash. I
yeah,
think the Nets are definitely somebody to watch or a team to watch this year. They have quite a few power players now, and
they
I don't
do.
know. We'll see what Steve Nash does, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to watch. And obviously, look stacked again, regardless of
Yeah.
them losing last night. Big deal, right? It's game
Yes.
one. It's game one of 72. So, a
Yes.
championship wasn't won or lost last night. We talked about University of Alabama. And then that's the Sydney Sixers. That's right, the Sydney Sixers. And
Yeah.
then tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, so the Sydney Sixers are a BBL, this Big Bash League cricket team
Yeah.
based in Australia. I'm interning for them right now, just working on some fan engagement things. But I was able to travel to Sydney. I think it was fall of 2018, maybe summer of 2018.
Okay.
And it was through NYU, and we got to meet with a bunch of different sports teams there, leagues, teams. I was doing research on women working in Australian sport and then
Yeah.
doing like a comparative analysis to women working in American sports. And I met the Sixers there. It was super fun. I love the team. So I kind of picked them up and I've been watching them. It's kind of hard to watch them considering the time difference, but still stay on top of things. But yeah, the research project was really what stuck, I guess, made the Sixers stick with me. Um, yeah, it's fun.
And so, and I've never gone to a cricket match. And from what I remember, well, not that I was also thinking of what do you call it, highlight, which was big in the South and like in Florida. But in terms of
Right.
cricket, how many like what's the landscape like that for professional cricket? Is it
Yeah,
it's kind of like
it's
the soccer following? It's got to be a niche group, right? I think is what I'm getting
yeah.
to.
So obviously, it's not huge in the U.S.
Right.
It is the main most popular sport in Australia and India. It's huge there, and maybe one day it'll grow here too. I think the I was talking with a couple of my friends that work there, and it's about like the first step, like getting someone to turn on a cricket match. That's all it takes. Like you just have to turn it on and
Yep.
then like maybe watch I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour of it, and then you'll
Yeah.
get the hang of it because
Gotcha.
it is similar to baseball.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of like nuances and things, but I mean even the pitch is a circle and that's not normal for any American sports.
Yeah.
But yeah, the education piece is I think what makes cricket I guess tough to grow within the US because
Yep.
there are already so many professional sports teams and leagues here that are huge and have like this great following and stuff. So trying to add cricket, which isn't even a new sport,
Right. It's
it's
been
very
around
old.
for a long time. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really cool. I think another one, Australian rules football. I did go to an Aussie rules game while I was in Sydney, and that was incredible. I wish that that would grow, but it's called Aussie rules for a reason. It's really popular in Australia.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see, but I would love to see more Australian sport growing.
Yeah, and big fan following in those countries, right? Do they get big
Yes.
draws, kind of like soccer?
Yeah, it's like soccer and
Yeah,
rugby, I would say.
yeah.
Um,
And
both very
soccer's really grown quite a bit in the States. Do you agree with that over the
yeah.
years?
Yes, I think it's grown a lot, whether it's people following European soccer, British soccer, English soccer, or MLS. I think MLS is developing a lot right now. A few years ago, maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, I probably had watched maybe one or two MLS games
Yep.
ever.
Yep.
But now I watch it pretty regularly. I think they're doing a really good job. They handled the bubble really well.
They did, didn't
So,
they? They did a great
yeah,
job with that bubble down in Florida.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think soccer is growing a lot. I was able to pick up FC Bayern kind of when they were at their peak because of an internship. So
Yep.
they'll probably be one of my forever teams as well. But yeah, I think American soccer is growing a lot, and Americans are starting to pick up European soccer more as well if it wasn't already like ingrained in their families.
Yeah, yeah, I've enjoyed it. I mean, watching some of the World Cups, watching some of the MLS. To your point, I did follow that when they were down in the bubble. I know out here in Arizona, believe it or not, there is hockey out here. I'm a ex-hockey player,
Okay.
so I played the game, so I love it. So there's a lot more rinks and everything else. But as you know, in the Northeast, it's big hockey, where soccer's to hockey out here. A lot of soccer
Yeah,
leagues out here in Arizona. So sports really, and it's a great sport. It really
yeah,
is.
it
It's good to
is
watch. I really. So,
definitely.
Deontay Wilder, is that your? I know I asked you like some other things that you follow. Is that you like your number one guy, or just one of a few that you
Yes.
follow in the boxing world?
Yeah, I think Deontay is number one. I'll watch Anthony Joshua
Anthony
because it's Anthony
Joshua,
Joshua.
right?
Um,
Yes, the heavyweight
but
division's not too bad, and you throw in Tyson Fury, it's a good
yeah,
mix.
right. Yeah, my dad got me into boxing probably in high school, middle school or high school, just watching whoever was on really. Yeah, so I didn't realize how big the boxing culture was in New York.
Yeah.
That was crazy when I moved there. I was like, oh wait, like people want to go to a boxing like event with me because that
Right.
there really just aren't very many of those here.
Yep.
I'd seen Deontay fight in Birmingham. I think he fought Chris Arreola, I think.
Okay.
And that was awesome. That was kind of when it stuck. I know it was hard convincing my mom to let me go to a boxing
Yeah.
match with my dad and my uncle when I was probably a freshman, sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, it stuck. I've been able to see Deontay fight a couple times in Brooklyn as well.
That's
Think,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
great fighter. We like him here too. You know, we follow him
yeah,
here at the house, and my wife's a big boxing fan. My mother-in-law is from Guadalajara, Mexico, so they're big Canelo fans. So they were
okay,
more than excited last weekend with the Canelo fight. But
yeah,
I like what that heavyweight division shaping into. You know, and
definitely.
he brings a lot of flair to it too, and he
Hmm.
can back it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's cool. There are a lot of really good guys in heavyweight right now.
Yeah,
I know some divisions, like there's kind of that one person that just dominates
dominates.
the whole
Yeah,
time. I feel like there are a lot of really good options with Deontay and I don't know a couple others, but
yeah.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
It's good to see the heavyweight division back, and then you got the
Definitely.
I call it the I think they're calling it the Legends League. I'm calling it the Old Man League, but it's still enjoyable. I ended up watching Tyson do his event a couple weeks ago. The guys, the over
Yeah,
50 club that are trying to come back, and a lot of it is for charity, as you probably know. A
right.
bit of money into it. So Tyson came in shape, though. He looked good. He looked good.
Yeah, that
Was
was that was a weird fight.
it was? You know what? The whole card was different,
Yeah.
wasn't it? I mean, between
Hmm.
Snoop Dogg coming out and
Yeah,
doing his thing, and it was, yeah. I don't know. It's tough to say if I got the bang
yeah,
for the buck, but anything Mike Tyson does is always interesting. I wish it was a little
yeah,
bit better. I don't think the fight was a draw. I don't know about you. I thought Tyson won.
yeah,
But what are you gonna do? They did it for charity, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how long they can keep that thing going now.
yeah. We'll see. I think I don't know. It's hard bringing back people who are older, maybe haven't been fighting regularly every single
Yeah,
day
yeah.
in their retirement and stuff. So lots of things could go wrong. So
It
I
could,
don't know.
right?
I feel like it might take one bad fight and
One
then
bad
we'll see
thing, and
what happens.
I know that I know they were monitoring it
Yeah.
for cuts, right? And they were going to stop the fight. And
Hmm.
then the other fight was, that YouTuber Jake Paul,
Yeah.
who I'm not a fan of,
Hmm.
and Nate Robinson. I mean, he got knocked out,
Yeah. That was that was hard to watch. I
wasn't
don't know.
it?
I didn't love that, and I know now
I didn't either.
Paul is trying to fight more people, which I mean, they said he was training, like he actually did train for this. So
Yep.
um, I think that's good. Just putting people who aren't in, I don't know, they're not training for this. I don't think they should get in the ring. Like if they're not like fully prepared and they don't know all the
It's
safety protocols and things, because boxing is so dangerous.
It's
I
so
don't.
tough, and I hear that from a lot of people. And so, Nate Robinson just trying to convert from basketball over, and he looked like he was in
Right.
great shape, and he always has
Hmm.
been. But it's a whole different game. And then even with a Jake Paul, who is not considered a professional, but he can
Hmm.
fight. He can fight. Now, what he could do up against a real pro, that
Yeah.
remains to be seen. But I think he's just going a little too much over the top, calling people out too lately.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I
Be
don't think
careful what
rookies
you
should do
wish
that.
for, right?
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for. All right.
Definitely.
As we wind this down and wrap this up, you do a little bit of I said some other hobbies and painting and drawing. You want to share a little bit about what you're doing with that right now, which I think is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm actually minoring in studio art. I think I'm the first person at NYU to major in sports and minor in studio art, so that's kind of fun. I've been able to take a lot of really cool classes just to kind of work on my technique because I've been doing art since probably middle school, high school age, and I take painting through NYU. I've taken metal smithing through NYU, which was a really crazy experience. Kind of like walked into the class and she gave me a plate of copper, a saw, and a torch and said, go for it. And I was like, okay,
You went to work.
let's see. Yeah. Yeah, so that was awesome. But now I focus on the drawing part and illustrating more so than all of the other pieces of art that I've been able to study at NYU. And I've commissioned some pieces. I've drawn some illustrations for New Amsterdam FC, which is a NISA soccer team based in New York. Yeah, it's so much fun. Art is also like a stress reliever for lots of
Yeah.
people. So it's kind of fun to be able to have that relaxing hobby and commission pieces while I'm doing it.
Therapeutic
Yes,
and
definitely.
commission pieces. So you've got an ultimate payoff. That's something that you love and enjoy doing, which
Definitely.
is huge. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, I want to thank you once again. Much success to you. I can only
Thank
imagine
you.
where you're going to end up down the road. You've got great things ahead. And enjoy the rest of your time in Alabama.
Thank you. I
Enjoy.
will. Thanks so much for having me on.
Take care. I appreciate you joining, Aggie.
Awesome. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
All right. And so there you go. So great interview. You can tell she's up and coming star, if you will, in the sports world, sports industry. It seems like she can go in any direction she wants to. Great personality, involved with quite a bit. So kudos to her. So I want to thank her once again. Thank you, Aggie, for joining the show. For everybody else, let's hunker down here. Last 2 weeks of the NFL season. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens in terms of playoff matchups, seedings, etc. It's all on the line. The Steelers continue to implode day after day. As I said, I kind of felt like they were fool's gold, and they certainly got their butts handed to them against Cincinnati and did not look good whatsoever. So they've got a lot of work coming up this weekend, and I believe they've got a tough game against Indianapolis, and then they got to still play the Cleveland Browns, who are looking good. So enjoy the football, enjoy the bowl games, stay safe, enjoy the holidays, have fun, eat a lot, eat, drink, and be merry, as I like to say. But with that, I'm going to send you off with a little bit of Jay-Z and one of my favorites, Alicia Keys.
Sitting courtside, Knicks and Nets give me high five. I be spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I'm most definitely from. Hey.
And with that, everyone, I am officially out. Peace, love, God bless.